Welcome to the CP Media Podcast, brought to you by Team CP, your endurance coaching specialists. I am the media man with the Mo, aka Angus Petrie. A big warm welcome to everybody out there. And of course, joining us on a Wednesday night live is our team captain, Rico Greer. How are you, mate?
I'm really good, Angus. How are you getting on this evening?
Mate, I'm really good. It's Wednesday night. It's the middle of the week. Life's pretty good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's good, isn't it? I was actually just looking back some photos of when we did Pioneer together a couple of years ago, and you didn't have the Mo. You looked a lot more streamlined. You raced in the weekend with the Mo. How does that, does it improve performance? Where are you at with that?
Well, I like to say that it's aerodynamic. It's like the rear diffuser of a race car, if you can imagine. The air comes in and gets diffused through the whiskers and aerodynamically out the side, keeping some downforce, keep the wheels on the ground. And so,
I see. Okay, is that how it works? Okay, yeah.
Pretty proven technology is, the results are there.
And clearly, there's been no testing in that. It's all just hearsay.
No, but look, I mean, we're digressing here. But I was walking down the street last night in Midtown Christchurch, and we're walking out from dinner, walking down past another bar, and a guy just stops me and goes, "Excuse me, sir, but I love your moustache." So,
Did anybody? What was the ratio between I love versus I hate? What you told me to how I love, but
look, Richard, take my story on board, would you? And let's move on, Richard. It is Wednesday night. We are live. Another great show ahead of us. What do we got tonight, Rich?
Yeah, awesome. So we've got Dylan McNeice. We're going to talk to Dylan. Dylan has been a pro triathlete for a number of years, so we're going to have a bit of a chat to him. We're going to also talk to Simon Salmond, who's a physio as part of our performance network, specifically about shoulders, actually. So if you've got a bit of a dicky shoulder, and we're going to talk specifically some swimming, some paddling, and just shoulders in general as well. And we're also going to have a bit of a chat to you, Angus. You did the 6 Hour Mcleans a race in the weekend, and you've done that a number of times, so get a bit of feel for that race, what it is about, going round and round in circles for 6 hours in a row, and maybe learn a thing or two off you potentially as well, or not. We'll see how that goes. That was
scratching the head there, Rich. Look, it'll be great to just have a wee talk about that and share some stuff. It was a great weekend racing, and there's always learnings to take from that, no matter how many of those you do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be good. But this week we've got Dylan McNeice live to the show. Dylan's a professional triathlete who's basically, like, I've watched him a number of times down in Wanaka, down with Challenge Wanaka, and kind of has a catch me if you can sort of attitude to racing. He's always either the first or in the first few out of the swim, and basically got a bike and a run to match and won that event a number of times. So really keen to talk to Dylan about his training, about his racing at the highest level. And one of the really good things for us is that Dylan's been a professional triathlete, but he actually retired in March. So kind of that means for us is he's a bit of an open book. He's got no secrets he necessarily needs to hide and keep from his competitive. So really looking forward to having a bit of a chat to Dylan.
Welcome, Dylan. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I don't know about no secrets, but I'll do my best to let the world know what it's all about.
I was just going to say that there's many athletes that have retired and aren't very good at retirement and tend to make a comeback somewhere along the line, and maybe it's in a different category. There's always a very competitive Vet 1 Masters or all sorts of things to do. So I'm guessing that retired is not a definite thing, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of got lucky, I guess, in terms of retirement, because there's no racing. So I haven't sort of had a chance to miss anything yet, which is kind of just throwing me in the deep end, which is sometimes the best way to learn, right? So, but yeah, retirement for me will mean hopefully just some different sort of fun events, bit of mountain biking. I ran the Abel Tasman race the other weekend, and just cool little missions like that. So will there be a comeback? Probably not, to be honest, but never say never, right?
Yeah, just a different level, eh? Like, things are just different. So different challenges. Yeah, jump on the mountain bike, run some trails, all those sorts of good things.
Yeah, absolutely. I did get a little bit sick of the road. So I've really enjoyed getting into mountain biking and learning that new skill. And you can actually feel the improvements when you do things like mountain biking. And, I guess that's what I really enjoy, is those improvements. So the new things are good for that.
And you get to a certain point in your professional career, and those those improvements become less and less and less, don't they? They get harder and harder to get to. Whereas getting into mountain biking and building that up, the improvements are like so much more exponential, aren't they, as you get out there?
Yeah, exactly. And it's scary as well. And I don't know who said it, but they said ski yourself every day, and I guess I got to the point of my triathlon career where nothing was really scaring me other than probably the competition I had to face. But mountain biking sort of does that, so it keeps the heart beating, and there's a bit more excitement there.
Brilliant. How much skin have you got on your knees? What's any offs yet?
I actually got a new bike thanks to Specialized. They hooked me up for mountain bike, which may or may not have been a good thing, but my first ride on it last November, I think I got a bit keen and just hit this jump and just absolutely went flying, no control at all, and so took a big stack on my first ride, which like I say, it was kind of getting thrown in the deep end, so I learned that hard lesson pretty early, and I've had a few crashes, to be honest, but nothing as bad as that first one.
Well, they say all the gear, no idea.
Yeah, that was definitely me. So hey, it's good to start at the bottom.
Yeah, and the bike's still in one piece?
Yeah, I actually managed to save the bike reasonably well. So that I was pretty impressed with myself with that. But just not probably what led to it.
Yeah, you bore the brunt of it. Jumping back, Dylan, in terms of your triathlon career, how did you get into triathlon? What drew you to the sport? And then also, like, you evolved. You didn't start long distance racing. You started with the ITU level, really. And what drew you to distance racing, like the Ironman distance?
Yeah, so I was a swimmer for years and years, which was, it was just what I did at school. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. And so I think when I left school first year at a university, I actually I decided to give up swimming and had a phone call from Rowley Crichton saying, "Hey, I hear you've given up swimming. Why don't you come and do a triathlon camp?" So that was where it all started for me. And I, like most athletes in New Zealand, especially, I started with the short distance ITU stuff, and just sort of progressed through to the longer distances. There was a part of me that always thought I would be better at those longer distances. I was a bit of a diesel engine, so definitely didn't expect to be able to do what I've done, I guess. But yeah, pretty happy when it all sort of came together in that first Wanaka back in 2013.
Yeah, brilliant. So that was my next question, actually. Over your career, you won a number of international long distance Ironman distance races. Is there one that really sticks out for you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Wanaka. Each year I won it was pretty special. I didn't exactly, each year I didn't exactly believe I was going to win. I was always confident in my fitness and stuff, but there's so many great athletes, and you never know what's going to happen on the day. Mm-hmm. So every time that I won, I was probably relieved as much as satisfied and super happy and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I guess the first one, if I hadn't won that first one, I might have actually retired then. It was going to be my first and my last, as a lot of people will know. So winning that first Wanaka was definitely what brought me to where I am now. So I can't complain about that.
Yep. And just as part of that, like as a pro triathlete, how do you make your money? Do you how much is it sponsorship? How much is it winnings from winning races? How does that work? Because you're obviously traveling. There's a fair bit of expense going on to be able to get yourself around the world.
Yeah, I think definitely the top guys, most of their money's in sponsorship. If they've been around a while and they've had good results, they should also have good bonus structures. So when they do win a race, it's the prize money is kind of a minor part of their earnings. And to be honest, it's absolutely necessary to have good sponsors and good bonus structures, because the prize money's just really not there. So I was really lucky to build some good loyal relationships through my time as an athlete, and still have those relationships now. So
cool.
That's critical as a pro to just setting a good base and then being able to kind of race a bit more freely.
Yeah, brilliant. Racing from the front, I mentioned that in my intro. You've always been a phenomenal swimmer, and obviously that's come from your swimming background as you were younger. you're first out of the water, or at least in the first handful of athletes onto the bike. What was your mindset getting onto the bike? Has it always been, let's just put the hammer down, let's ride my own race, let's see what everyone else has got? Or actually, I'm here now and I'm in good shape, I'll just hang out? How have you approached that over the years?
I can kind of tell you what I did, and then what I should have done, and what I found actually worked. And what I found worked was really when I just put the blinkers on and did my own thing. Just rode my own race, controlled my tempo. You get wound up, and especially in professional racing, you get wound up sort of thinking you lose in the race by letting, say, a biker go. But really, there's not much you can do in those situations. If they're stronger, then you just got to bide your time and hope that you're stronger at another point in time. Those Wanakers for me were always sort of just controlled, just doing my own thing. And when I did that, I always ran better too. Those races where I really tried to dig deep and say hang with some riders that I knew I could, but maybe I shouldn't, genuinely didn't end in a very good run. So later in my career, I definitely tried to improve my cycling, and I did. But I still struggled over that full distance, because you can kind of bluff your way through a half Ironman, I think, as a professional. But when you get into a full distance race, you've really got to stick to what works for you.
Yeah, and I guess part of that is in any event, you fluctuate up and down, don't you? You have good patches or you have bad patches. You're going to go well, you're going to put some pressure on some other riders, and then they're going to go well, and you might be in a lower patch. So that's part of the reason why it's more important just to do your own thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. From age groupers up to the professionals, you still got to roll the dice sometimes. So you got to really be able to measure effort. But there is generally a point where you should just pull pin and then do your own thing. So that's the beauty of the sport. You've really got to try and learn those intensities and those feelings across all three sports. So it's something I actually never really completely mastered. You're always trying to figure that out. So again, it's probably an exciting part of the sport, not really even knowing the limits.
And the reason for that is there's just so many different factors, isn't there? So many different, the different people, the different environment, all that sort of stuff that's going on, how you're feeling, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah,
absolutely. There's swim, bike, run, but there's also a ton of other things that play into it. So it makes it exciting. It makes it nerve-wracking for you, but it's also really satisfying. When you finish a race and you feel like you got everything about as well as you could.
Nice. We're kind of talking in that bike sense, and a key part of Ironman is that nutrition element, and that's where a lot of nutrition happens. How have you managed that? How have you figured that out over time for you, that's worked for you?
So going back to my first Wanaka again, I actually just hit the nail on the head probably the first time around just by pure luck. I had a drink bottle, and I said, all right, how many gels can I fit in this bottle? And it ended up being about 20 gels.
Right. Okay.
Which ended up being about what I needed to get through, a little bit less on the bike. As I progressed in my career, I tried to refine that, and to my detriment in hindsight, I always tried to push things and tried to improve things.
Which is part of what it is. Like you talked about your mountain biking. It's just how can I improve, or how can I improve? But it's hard to know whether you've got it right or not.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you've got to really. I know that for me, well, in general, there's a limit of sort of how many carbs you can kind of take on board per hour, and so I think you should look at that limit, and if you can take that limit, then that's what I would recommend, especially over the Ironman and on the bike. If your body can handle it, you should be taking it on board, because you never know when you might not be able to take it on board. And the last few years I definitely experimented a bit more, and I definitely felt that at the end of the marathon that I actually probably hadn't had enough. So I wish I'd just stuck to what I knew, which was pretty much just getting as much on as I could.
And that was always in the form of gels, was it? You didn't really eat much. You just gels, just slam them back, and we'll drink water at the same time.
Yep. So I used to, I'd probably mix a few gels in. Well, when I first started, it was literally 20 gels in a bottle. I'd sip gels and then sip water or sip electrolyte or something. And as I progressed, I, started doing different mixes and just trying different things, having you like sponsored by Cliff later in my career, the last 3 or 4 years. So I'd added in some Cliff blocks and bars. Whereas in hindsight, I probably would have been better off just sticking to pure gels.
Right.
And if I could get a bar or two in on the bike. And again, that's where everyone's different. You've just got to work out where your limits are. And just like when you're racing an effort, you've got to manage that. And if you can really push those limits, I think that's what you should be doing, both in nutrition and obviously in effort.
Also sounds that's a bit of a keep it simple situation as well. You can get too complicated on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back at things, it's always I should have just kept it simple. If you try too hard here and there, it can work, but you also probably there's more risk. So if simple is working for you, then absolutely I wouldn't change too much.
Yeah, nice. Training wise, can you describe your favorite sort of race specific training session before a key event that sort of really helped you get set for the race? And then based on that, how would you maybe adapt that for people that are at a lower level?
Yeah, I used to do a big, probably 2 weeks out, I'd do a big swim bike run day. And it'd be like, say, a 4K swim, 3.5, 4 hours on the bike, and then 90 minutes of running. When I was in Christchurch, I'd be lucky enough just to swim sort of at Jelly Park or whatever, and then head up to the hills, and I'd do bike run hill reps. I'd be sort of 3 times a hilly loop, which is about 45 minutes to an hour long, and then I'd do a 30-minute run off the bike. So I'd do that 3 times.
Right. Okay. Right. So it's not just one big bike, right? It's lots of little bits, lots of transitions as well. Yeah. Right.
And the focus was maintaining. So on the hill climbs, maintaining like a good sort of race power, good cadence, but using the hill to make it a bit more. I guess the hill sort of comes to you more. It's a bit more attainable for the power wise, and then I would descend down the hill, and then I'd run straight back up for about say 20 minutes, and then 10 minutes down. And I just found that when I was really fit, even by that third run, I was still feeling pretty, comfortable. Like I hadn't really dug into the reserves too much. And for me, that was a really key session. And I used to do that. I've done it in Boulder and some other places as well, where I just find a good loop, do that with some good efforts during it, and then the same thing, a 30-minute run off with some sort of good intensity. How do you? I guess for anyone, they could do that session. Especially if you're training for an Ironman and you're really serious about it and you're putting in those big days, then that's a day that most people should be able to probably handle.
At that time of your preparation as well.
Yep. So 2 weeks out, it's kind of like I guess like doing a half Ironman 2 weeks out. It's just a little bit more controlled and a little bit more aerobic based, which I do think is probably it's probably better in my mind, to be honest. If you really are peaking 2 weeks out from trying to peak 2 weeks from that training session. But yeah, I think anyone should be or could do that session. And I really do think the bike run reps just add another dimension of just consolidating your fitness. And I found it really worked well for me.
And after that, was it all about actually, I'm just going to just recover and taper and look after myself beyond that and just do a little bit of stuff, but not do too much? Like that's the training and that's the preparation in the bank. Is that how it always kind of worked for you? A couple of weeks out and then, or not so much?
Not so much. I used to probably fit in probably 2 or 3 days later, I'd do my final 3-hour run.
Okay.
So I used to do 2 or 3 of them, no more, and no more time either. 3 hours was always my limit. Before the race, and then I'd also probably 2 days after that would fit in another 5-6 hour bike ride, and they were both steady. So for me, I was finishing most of my sort of load, I guess, from about 10, 11, 12 days out from the race. I just felt that was what worked for me, and and to be honest, I'd actually started from 3 weeks out, starting to wind down the mileage and the time spent. So I had started to freshen up before that. So that was just more about keeping in tune with the longer stuff and the longer, steadier sort of aerobic stuff. It wouldn't be until I think about 8 days out, I'd usually do a track session as well. And then about a week out, I'd do a bit of specific effort on the bike, but nothing long. Just making sure the systems are still going.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool. Next question I had was around pressure. There's actually a relatively small number of professional elite level triathletes, and you must get to know most people pretty well. And in New Zealand, we're really fortunate that you can go up and say good day to yourself and all the other guys around, and they're really forthcoming and happy to share and things like that. But because there are such a small number of them, and any little edge that you can have over others is really of value. So how have you dealt with that pressure, that direct pressure from other athletes in the past, when you're lining up on the start line, or the day before that you're kind of sussing out how you're going to go, and that kind of nerves going into the race?
It's a really interesting question. I don't know if you've sort of been asked about how you deal with other athletes, and honestly, it's not even really something I've ever sort of thought about. You always kind of, you're looking at this person and that person going, oh, they look fit, they look strong. You hear rumors, you hear what they did and didn't do, and so it's a really interesting question. I don't think I ever really worried too much. Like, to be honest, I knew almost everything I needed to know about the athletes that I was racing. I knew what they were good at and what they weren't sort of good at. And so that was just always front and center of my mind. It wasn't something that added to the pressure that I felt. I don't think the pressure was always, I think, coming from myself just to perform as best I could. And I definitely learned in my later years that everyone hurts.
Yeah, good.
That helps, yes.
Even
you're hurting.
And did you develop a good game face? Because that's part of it too. Like, even if you are hurting, you don't want to show that you're hurting to others, because then they think you're hurting and then they'll go a bit harder.
Well, you could say you do want to show, but then you're not. So it was always
okay, there's two ways of looking at it. Yeah, I like it.
I guess I just learned in my time that, like I say, everyone hurts. There are some guys that definitely, if they go past you on the bike, they're not hurting anywhere near as much as you. But everyone's hurting. You've just got to roll with the punches, I guess, sometimes. And more often than not, if you're riding in a group and you're in a group, a draft legal group, obviously, and someone sort of rolls the dice a bit, that if you also roll the dice, and if you can, that you'll probably still stay together. No one in those group situations is necessarily always that much stronger than anyone else. So it's just about knowing that, and about accepting what you can do and not what you can't do.
I'm just going to jump in there, Dylan, that a pressure on another level now, like now that you're retired and you're taking up some new avenues, some mountain biking and bits and pieces, is there a pressure on you, or you probably don't know yet because we haven't actually had any events, but do you feel a pressure that people know who Dylan McNeice is, they know you're a world triathlete, and now you're going to line up on the start line of a non-professional, a club or a local sort of a race? Is there pressure on you still to do well there, or the feel of judgment that may come from others, or like quite a different type of pressure going from pro athlete to now just? I know a lot of people they come from a pro athlete and they don't continue to do any racing because they don't want that stigmatism of now.
Well, I still do this and still love to do it because I want to stay fit and healthy, and I want to enjoy my beers when I have them, and enjoy the odd piece of lolly cake or whatever. But yeah, pressure, I think that will be a real thing. The shape I'm in at the moment is not great, so I would be very worried about turning up to a local tri and what people might think. But I don't think people care. I think they'd be quite happy to beat me. And if I can make people happy, then that's a great thing.
That's a great area.
But I've actually sold my TT bike, so I will only get another one if I know that I'm going to be in decent shape and can get back to being, somewhat competitive. But I do actually have a goal, which is to go back to Hawaii as an age grouper probably one day and beat my younger brother's time from a couple of years ago. So he's the fastest McNeice in Kona at the moment, and I can't really let that slide. So I've got to get back there.
Another question then, if you've sold your TT bike and you're sort of semi-retired from there, does that mean you've actually bought a pair of socks with a decent cuff length on them now?
I've always had decent cuff length socks, so I've always been a fan of higher socks. So I'll keep adding to my collection there too, for sure.
Good.
Dylan, to wrap up, what's one or two key tips for others to achieve their potential going forward, based on what you've learned across your career?
Everyone that's lucky enough to have 2 arms and 2 legs is pretty much the same, so don't ever put barriers on yourself or think that for whatever reason you can't be this or can't be that. We're all the same. We've all got the same ability just to sort of learn and to train and to improve. So it's all relevant. So just don't be afraid to sort of just chase your goals and set a good plan and do what works for you. The other one would be just do what works for you. If you know something works, stick to it. Don't get too carried away with any new fads or anything. And just number one, if you're not enjoying it, just mix it up, because you always want to enjoy what you do.
Brilliant. And where are you off to next? You've retired from professional racing. What are you up to now, and what's the plan for you going forward?
I'm actually going to do Queenstown half marathon. I haven't entered yet, but that's on the plans in terms of athleticism wise, I guess.
Angus is just trying to figure out when there might be a time that he could try and beat you, but might have to wait a bit.
It's not now, is it?
That's not yet.
That's not the event.
No, it's not.
We're still a wee while away, so the way my training's going, I'm definitely on the downward slope. So you never know. Queenstown could be a good chance. But I'm actually, at the moment, I'm lucky enough to be working for the Professional Triathletes organisation, which I've been on the board since we started back in 2015. And we've just got really lucky to get an investor on board last year. And we're putting on our first event in Daytona in December. So, my job is basically to try and look after the best I can. And at the moment, that's pretty full time. I've been doing 8 to 10 hours at my desk a day, which is definitely foreign to me. But we're just trying to make sure that our athletes can get into the US to race, because they're all desperate to race, and it's been a pretty tough year for everyone, and especially the endurance industry. So hopefully we can put on a good show in Daytona in December.
Wicked, cool! What a great role. That's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. Righto, Dylan. Well, thank you very much. But before we go, we always like to just fire a quick 5 questions at our guests. Just absolutely no pressure. The least pressure you'll have all season. So, for Dylan, what is training? Is it morning or night? Is his favourite?
Morning.
I think, again, Richard, that's another one in the morning box there. Definitely, we might have to change that question. Training solo or with a mate?
It used to be solo, but now I need mates pretty much to get out and motivate me. So, ebb and flows.
Yep.
Good. Sweet or savoury?
I'm straight down the middle. One day I'll be sweet, one day I'll be savoury. I cannot pinpoint it, to be honest. Sorry.
I think that is actually the toughest question on our list, Richard.
It's quite a mixture as well. Yep.
Yeah.
Can I just say both? I'd rather have a pie and then a cake at the same time.
And I think that is the best way to do it, isn't it? Really.
Yep. No, well done. It's good.
Yeah.
Work done.
A fancy meal out at a lovely restaurant, all flashed up, or one of Mum's good old-fashioned home-cooked meals?
I'd say one of Mum's, but for me, it'd just be more of a barbecue with family or friends.
Nice.
Right.
Yep. And if you had to swim, lake or sea?
I'm going to say lake. The surf, the sea for me is for surfing, so I love to swim in a nice crystal clear lake.
Like, beautiful. Great.
Perfect. Good job.
Perfect, Dylan. Perfect. Now, I also know, Rich, I was just thinking about, and I'm probably being a little bit ambiguous here, to be fair, but not like me to bite off more than I can chew. But I actually do know that there is a local Saturday morning bunch ride that Dylan does occasionally attend, that I also happen to frequent occasionally as well. So who knows? It may all one Saturday this summer. It may all get laid down here in Christchurch, and we'll keep you posted.
Yeah, all you need to do, Angus, is just to be at the front for a moment and then sort of claim the victory and then sort of roll off the back. Wherever your finish line is.
A bit like where is the finish line at Raspberry Cafe, Richard?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I won't be turning up for a while now. Then, now that I know this.
Or we can have like a best of 3 or something. Yeah.
That's fair.
Perfect.
That's fair.
Yeah. Right, Dylan. Well, thank you so much for your time. All the best for retirement. All the best for the new challenges ahead, and working with the International Triathlon. There, that's great to hear that we've got some New Zealand representation, people looking after the athletes out there.
Thanks,
and
guys. Appreciate it.
all the best, and we hope we'll catch you around somewhere.
Yep. Sounds good. We'll see you soon.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Brilliant,
guys.
Dylan. Thanks for sharing.
Bye.
Awesome. Good job, Angus. I think one of the key learnings from that is maybe you have to start training in the morning.
Is that what it is? Well, but the bed is always so comfortable, Richard. So
recovery. Yeah, no, maybe you just need to get to bed early. Stop eating so many biscuits at night time.
Yeah, clearly the morning is where I need to be, though, by the sounds of that. So I'm going to take that on board. That's going to be my takings from all of the podcasts that we've done lately. Is that Angus needs to get up earlier.
Get yourself sorted. Nice work. So I want to have a bit of a chat about your race in the weekend. Actually, I want to have get a bit of a feel for how you go about that. 6 hours on your bike. First of all, how far did you ride over 6 hours?
Well, actually, first of all, Richard, let's just back the truck up here a little bit. And it was just great, 1, to be on a bike racing. 2, to be supporting our local event. The Bluedog Events, Rod and Jane Hibbard do an absolute fabulous job every year of putting together out at Mcleans Island what is normally a 6 and a 10 hour. So you have the choice of 6 hours or 10 hours, solo or as a team. Back in the day, we used to race for 12, but luckily they knocked that silly idea on the head and gave us 2 hours back. So to Rod and Jane and to everybody that supported the Bluedog events over the weekend, post-COVID, it wasn't even, nobody was sure whether it was actually going to happen, but it turned into a fabulous day.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had quite a crew there as well. You rode, but then there was another Team CP athlete, John, who was going solo as well, and a whole bunch of teams too. So you had all sorts of people cheering on and being part of the event, which definitely makes it, doesn't it?
Oh, we had a fabulous time. And that is one of the things about that local event is the atmosphere. The race village, because it's a lap race, so we're doing laps of Mcleans Island, and you're coming back through the pit village every time, and there's always an immense atmosphere going on there that really recharges you each lap and makes you want to carry on.
Gives you a wee target to shoot for, doesn't it? I just got to get back there because that's the fun bit, and then away you go again.
I don't know that any of it's fun sometimes.
Totally. So how far did you ride over your 6 hours?
Yeah, so 6 hours, 15 laps for me. It's like about 147 odd K, give or take.
On your mountain bike. Did you stop at all?
On the mountain bike.
Yes.
Technically, yes, I did stop, but for only like 20 seconds bursts. Angus tended to have a bit of a warehouse bladder on Saturday, so he had to have a quick 20-second stop every now and then. But no stopping for me. Always taken a bit of a tack that you're better just to keep on the bike and keep moving. But again, to do that, you need a good support crew to help you with that.
So how did you do that? How do you manage that? How like coming through the pits, do you have food every second lap or a new bottle every lap? How does that work?
Yeah, so laps at Mcleans, they were actually fast this year, like faster than fast, but we're talking sort of about the 20 to 22 minutes a lap for the fast lot, and which isn't quite an hour, but I sort of try and work on doing a bottle an hour, so every 2 laps a bottle, and on the alternate lap, maybe a gel or half a bar or something like that. It's an interesting thing, Rich, because life changes in a flash out there, and I had a bit of an upset tummy after a few hours and had to change what I wanted to eat or what I could drink. I had a couple of pure formulas mixed in the bottle, and I wasn't sure whether that was working or not. So we just had to play it by. It's all very well having a great strategy laid out, and I think you need to start with one, but you also have to have the capabilities of being able to adapt as you go along.
And have some variety in that, because you're not sure what you're going to feel like sometimes either, are you?
Yeah, and it's a bit different because I used to be a real whole foods guy and wanted to eat real food type sort of stuff when we were doing 10 hours and 12 hours and when I was on that silly 24-hour caper. you tended to eat, wanting to eat proper foods, but 6 hours, unfortunately, out there, the 6 hours become what I want to call now a sprint race. It's basically a 6 hour sprint race. And so it becomes a gel race, really. A little bit of real food, bit of lolly cake. I actually went to the lolly cake. That was a bit of a sugar hit and just a nicety feeling, but a lot of gels and just fluid going in.
Yeah, brilliant. Why do you do it? Like running 143 Ks, round around a lap for 6 hours. What's the point? You've done. It's not like it's the first time you've been around either. You turn up, you know the hurt, you know what you're going to go through. What's the why? Well, why do you do this?
FOMO.
Okay.
Fear of missing out.
Okay. Because I might miss something. Right. Okay. Well,
essentially, I might miss a good time. I'm sure there's going one day. I know there's going to be a good time, and I'm scared of missing that one day. What I do it, I don't know. I guess some of us like to suffer. Some of us like to test ourselves. It's just in us. It's just what we do, and we can't help it. I don't have a rhyme nor a reason for it, and I was pretty late entering because I wasn't sure. I've been there, done that a few times now, but then the push come to the shove, and I couldn't miss out, so I just had to enter.
I had a good chat with Varjan Armstrong. I was at the Crater Rim Ultra on the weekend, and he got third in that event. And he was sitting in his chair at the end, right at the finish line. And we were just talking about the fact that how good does this chair feel when you've done something like that? You've really pushed the boundaries, you've gone hard, and the chair feels so good, doesn't it? Like when you've sat down and you know that you've given it everything. Ultimately, that's kind of what it's about, isn't it? Having that really challenging ourselves. Because in this day and age, we don't really do that very much. We can survive, we can eat plenty of food, we can get around with that sort of stuff. But actually, to challenge ourselves to then have the offset of that, to sit down with our feet up in a chair, that's pretty nice, isn't it? Drinking a beer, whatever.
Drink a beer. It was all right for him because he hadn't been sitting down all day, so the chair was probably good. Other of us that had been sitting on our bum for 6 hours were quite happy to stand for a little bit, actually. But that's exactly right. The reward of a beer at the end is always there. But I mean, the camaraderie, you've got a support crew. It's as much of a win for them when they see you finish, and that's just as good a feeling inside me to see the reward that my support crew got out of it. I had a good mate there who did it for his very, very first time. And when I did pass him a couple of times, but it just gave me so much pleasure to come across him out there. He was hurting, I was hurting. We just, different speeds of hurting. And all of those things are just so rewarding. I don't know. It's just that love of suffering, I think, Richard.
Yeah, nice. The 3 to 4 hour mark, you've only just got over halfway. You're still nowhere near the finish line. You can't quite open your sprint up yet. How does Angus Petrie deal with the 3 to 4 hour mark nowadays? Because the bit of that's experience, isn't it? You can get there. You can do it. But you don't really want to be there anymore, do you? Let's be honest. Your sting's out of your legs. You're probably, as you mentioned, you're hurting a bit. How do you deal with that? What do you do?
Well, I want to clarify first is that it's not that we weren't ready to let the sprint out. It's that we'd actually started sprinting. That was half the problem. And like I said, it is a sprint race, and it's pretty hard to tell yourself you need to pace yourself. You just go and you hang on. And that was a bit of our tack this time, was just go until you blow and then work it out from there. Look, this year was probably every year's hard, and you're going to get in that suffering. And luckily, my support crew, they know that I'm going to get a little bit dark, and I'm going to moan, and they're just going to roll with it because they know I'll get over it. And this year was no different. We got to about that 3.5 hour mark this year, and I was having a little bladder issue, and that was starting to really frustrate me. And I got to be honest, I was exactly that. I've been here, I've done this 1,000 times. I don't actually need to. I'm only doing it for myself. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. And actually, it's the other people that are involved that actually keep you going. On this occasion, my father had driven all the way. He'd driven an hour and 20 minutes from Devotionals over the hill to come and be my support crew. And I was ready, thinking right in there, going, you know what? I don't actually need to be here. I'm just going to pull the pin, and we'll have a beer, and we'll you know.
Yep.
Stupid bloody bike race, and and then I was like, well, you know what, my father's driven all this way, you know, it's I can't, like myself, I can't just pull the pin and go, Dad, you can go home now. So decided I better reassess my choices in life, and from that moment, from the moment I thought that, I recognized that we had issues going on, and I just sailed through the pits and said to my father, I said, look, we need to pull our shit together here, feed me some sugar, and let's reassess how we get around this. And so we did a couple of laps of some actual jet planes for a start, just to put some pure sugar in. And I knew once I got over the 4-hour mark, once we could clock the 4-hour mark, then we actually only had an hour to go. And I say that because an hour only takes you to 5, but once you get to 5 hours, you know you've only got 2 laps left.
Yes.
Theoretically, in that 5 hours, you've got 2 laps left. Now, you've technically actually only got 1 lap left, because the second to last lap, you know you can do one more. And so you get that done after the 5-hour mark. And then the last lap's just pure adrenaline. So you're at finish, the day's done. All I've got to do is I've got to ride my bike for 22 more minutes or 3 minutes or whatever, and we're done and dusted. So when you start winding the clock back like that and breaking it down into those type sort of sections, then it actually becomes quite an easy way to refocus the mind and go, well, actually, I now get to the 4-hour. Now all I've actually got to do is get to here, and you know, and it comes back to you pretty quickly.
So to summarize, you'll do more for other people than what you do for yourself. So thinking about others that mean something to you and people that are cheering you on, that's really big, isn't it? And then also the second part of it is actually just break it down into its small bits. And then I've just got to do this, and I've just got to do that, and don't think too far ahead. Just stay in the now, and then you're going to go well. What's next? You've just ticked this one off. Had a good weekend, had a good day out. What's next on the cards for Angus Petrie, other than Saturday morning trying to race Dylan up the hill?
No, well, actually, we're going to take the CP Media bus on tour this weekend, and we're actually heading for Takaka.
Yep.
And so I've entered the Milk and Honey race, which starts in Takaka and finishes in Takaka. And I'm going to ride my road bike up the Takaka hill, for 700 vertical meters of climbing. And then we're going to get on the mountain bike and have some fun down the Ramika Trail back to Takaka again. So really looking forward to that, which is a completely different game to what we've just come from. We've come from a flat, fast, basically a constant pedaling. And now we're going to completely flip the muscle group and try and point the legs uphill for a bit, and then find some flow.
Yeah, good. And that's a great track. It's a tough track, that Ramika track. There's a fair bit of pedaling in it for a start to get across and then start coming down. There's a bit of technical sort of nature, lots of tree roots and all that sort of thing. So, I look forward to seeing what war wounds you have at the end, Angus.
Yeah, well, would you believe I'm a virgin?
Haven't been down there yet. Oh, good. Fantastic.
So we're going to go blind. So that's okay. I like to ride a new trail. There's nothing actually better than new trail day, except for new bike day. But after new bike day comes new trail day. So
fantastic. No, good. Look forward to hearing the war stories and see how you got on going up versus going down. That's fantastic.
No. So it should be good. So that's a bit of a summary there. But to everybody that did complete in the weekend the 6-hour mountain bike race, it's some great feedback afterwards. That's actually, Richard, just quickly, that's one of the great things as well, is talking with everybody afterwards. Once that clock's finished, and then everybody starts opening up with their stories of the day, and there's just so much enthusiasm and adrenaline just running around there with people's, all those that suffered, they're about 3 minutes away from saying see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, I was at the Crater Rim on Saturday and saw heaps of our people come across the line. And this one person, Jill, that was mentioning that he was swearing a lot in French, that he was having a horrible day, and basically started talking to him. But by that time, at the end of the conversation, he'd pretty much already signed up for next year. So, good. Yeah, no. So well done for everyone who got out on the weekend, put their toe on the start line, has a war story to tell, has a something they'll never forget, and an adventure to show for it. So that's fantastic.
Totally. Righto. Well,
part 3 of our show today, our performance network. So we've got a whole bunch of people that we refer to, that we trust, that do an awesome job, from podiatrists to physios to massage therapists to nutritionists to you name it. So tonight we've got Simon Salmond, who's a part of our performance network. He's based in Auckland. He's a physiotherapist, and Simon's passionate about helping people to see how good they can be, but he takes a really holistic view of the athlete, the person, the individual, to see how can we make sure that they get the best out of their movement and their performance that they're trying to do. So yeah, shall we jump in and see if Simon's available there?
Yeah. Hi team. Here tasked to talk about shoulders tonight for swimmers and kayakers. And look, shoulders can be a really big issue when they go wrong. They're great until they don't. Shoulders are, here's the left person's left hand shoulder. If you look at it from behind, the amount of revolutions this guy does in a pool in a week, is 100,000 plus. So it's a very, very unstable joint. It's got the greatest range of movement of any joint in the body, or arguably the significant movement in the body. It's really only attached to the skeleton by your sternoclavicular joint here. The rest of it is just held on by muscles. So the upshot of that is your posture is crucial to how the shoulder behaves and how functional you are with it. So, that's where your coaches are really important to, it can be quite a dry topic if you're hunched over and you're told to constantly change that. But what we need is you to have that chest open. If you're looking at the scapula from the back, that should effectively be vertical and parallel next to the spine. So, when it starts coming forward or tilting forward, then the actual shoulder joint itself does not respond. So rather than just
on the bike, that's one of my key sort of things that I always talk about, is actually shrug your shoulders up to your ears, then relax them down. So you've got to actually know what the difference is, because often they just creep up, don't they, up to here. Yeah. And especially when, like for me, when I'm paddling, they're actually coming from your chest, the power, rather than from your trapezius up around your neck. So actually get those shoulders down. That's what you're saying? Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of our day jobs can be, if our work setup's not ideal. So someone comes to me with a shoulder problem, swimming, kayaking, even cycling, it may be, it's a high performance school kid leaning forward or leaning on one side, their mouse is too far forward. So looking at part of it is where the mouse is. Send me pictures of your workstation and how that is. Liaise with the coach and make sure, what have you picked up on the issues there? For example, if you have a slight bit of asthma, you'll tend to breathe too much with your apical muscles up here rather than more diaphragm. So you'll tend to get tighter trapezius. One of the things we should be looking at is, when you're looking at the shoulder, the collarbone should be about 2 centimeters higher at the outside edge. So it should be slightly up. It doesn't want to be depressed or lower than the sternoclavicular joint. So slight raising, but only about by an inch, no more.
And what should you be doing if that is the case?
Well, then you've got stretches. Yes. So you've got stretches for, I don't want to sort of get loaded down on technicalities, but you've got to decide whether it's a trapezius problem where the whole shoulder will be up, or it could be levator scap, which Latin means lifts the shoulder up. So that means the inside part of the scapula might be a little bit higher up. Both can cause neck pain, both can cause shoulders. So posture's huge. Listen to your coach, take feedback on that, look at your workstation and cycling. And it's not just the swimming or kayaking, it's those hours you spend on the bike or at work. So I guess when we're talking about shoulders, there's a number of different issues. Both can be really sort of hobby limiting, career limiting if it's your full-time job. But when we're looking at some of the problems, we've got tears of the rotator cuff, we've got impingement, we've got little fluid-filled spaces called bursa. As you can imagine, these are like little shock absorbers, but if we're doing this sort of movement 100,000 times plus a week, then there's a real potential for that to become swollen. Then when you lift your arm up, it impinges, causes pain, and then suddenly you're having difficulty sleeping on that side, swimming or kayaking, or even when you're cycling. Yeah, and then obviously we've got issues with tendinitises, overuse. So look at your training volumes. Your coach will be giving you good pointers about that. And we need to make sure that things like tears from actually lifting your kayak onto your roof of your car or the bike. We've got a safe zone of lifting, about shoulder height. When we start getting out of that, the amount of load through the shoulder goes up hugely. For example, if I hold a 10 kilogram load to my chest, it's 10 kilograms. At 50 centimeters, that is now 30 kilograms. So you imagine a bike up here catches the wind, catches a corner of the roof rack. Suddenly we're looking at a tear, and rotator cuff tear.
That's how injuries happen, isn't it? Just random, like just that moment, like, oh gosh, how did that happen? And then you've got to deal with it.
Yeah, a little stool on the plastic stool to take a foot of lift out of your bike or kayak.
Yeah.
But I don't want to scare you, but you get a rotator cuff tear. That's 6 weeks with your arm in a sling. Another couple of months of bungees, and that can really tear your season apart. So.
So what do we need to do? What's a couple of key pointers sort of around shoulder health and I guess it's strength as well, isn't it? The stronger we are, the more robust we are, the less likely we are to get injured.
Yeah, so barring one-off injuries, we want to make sure that our posture is good. So we're looking at balance around our shoulder. We're looking at posture. We're making sure the collarbones are just slightly raised at the end by, say, about 2 centimeters. We're making sure if we looked at ourselves from the back, our scapula would be vertical. They wouldn't be rotated forward. We'd have roughly about 4 of our fingers between our spine and the shoulder blades at the back. Okay. So if that's 5 or 6, it means we're quite protracted and hunched. And we'll get an idea of looking ourselves in the side of the mirror if our head's poking forward and if we've got a back shaped like a banana.
Okay. So key exercises, key stretches, what should we be doing?
Yeah, so tight shoulders, you need to stretch the trapezius, such as holding onto the chair, stretching your head over to one side, holding that for, say, 15 to 20 seconds. Some really technical stretches, latissimus dorsi, the main power shoulder muscle. That's what wins you the races swimming. It's also one of the big muscles in kayaking. We need to fix the shoulder blade, lie on our back, and make sure our arm is parallel to our midline. We've got a bit of a picture on that later.
Yeah, shall we see if we can throw that up now, shall we? Is that this one that you're talking about?
So that's that one there. It's quite tricky. You've got to flatten your back into the floor to fixate that. You've got to hold your shoulder blade where my left hand is, and then I have my arm keeping it parallel with the midline and just letting it hang. More gravity doing the job than trying to force it back. That can take a month or 6 weeks to actually stretch out, but quite a subtle stretch. But it's gold. It's really important. Plus making sure the right, I
was going to say, and on those stretches, it's about doing a little bit and often, isn't it? And any strength training is actually a little bit and often to be able to affect that change, and you get your body to adapt to that.
That's right. And so another great one, we've got a wall stretch. A lot of us hunched over desks on bikes, even swimmers have that real swimming posture.
Is that
that's it there. And what I've got here is if you find your head actually is quite hard to reach back to the wall, then use a towel spacer just so you don't strain your neck when you're getting your whole spine flat. So you bend your knees, you have your feet about a foot away from the wall, you lie back into the wall. That's your first job. Then you bring your back into the wall, have your towel so your head's against the wall. If you're doing that, your first effort, you're doing great. Then you can progress on to getting your shoulders drawing back into the wall. Now, it took me, because I did a bit of swimming, it took me about 7 months to get to that stage. So it's little and often. It's a shower each morning doing it, maybe at night, before the pool, before a kayak.
Fantastic. Good. And have you got and like your last key exercise to share with us in terms of shoulders that we should be doing? So you're talking about lying on the ground and reaching back behind your head. You're talking about arms up against the wall and back and head against the wall and bringing your shoulders and arms up against the wall. Have you got another sort of key one that you'd really recommend for us?
Yeah, just make sure that, again, it's more flexibility. We haven't talked about strengthening, but just make sure that if you were going to be lying on your back and you rolled your hand down towards your hip pocket with the arm at 90 degrees, if you find your shoulder pops forward, rather than the hand being able to go down like that,
Like
then that's it there. So you've got to make sure that you can fix the shoulder with the left hand, reaching across. You raise the elbow slightly and you just let that shoulder gently hang there. You don't force it. And you've got to make sure that the shoulder stays back on the ground, because if you don't, you'll force it forward and you'll get that impingement and that bursa inflammation.
Yeah, brilliant. Fantastic, Simon. So you've talked a little bit about mobility and stretching, and as you mentioned, like the shoulder joint is a really a most mobile joint, and that helps us to be able to throw stuff and collect stuff and move our hands in space. Like rotator cuff muscles, strength, etc. What should we be doing along those lines, just to make sure that we're less likely to be injured?
Well, we've got to make sure that the shoulder's in a good position to start with. Sometimes putting a ball between the side and holding it so it's slightly out, and then you can do a lateral rotator, because obviously that's part of your kayaking technique. So making sure that the elbow always stays at 90 and pushing it out to the side with the ball held in at your side. But again, the shoulder's got to be in neutral. If you start finding you're finishing up here, you need to get that corrected so the scapula's staying parallel at the back of your spine, and you're just working that shoulder, keeping the shoulder joint moving purely. And would it be helpful just to quickly talk about, if you are having problems, just some of the things that physio can be doing?
Yeah, let's do that, because I think a lot of us do have shoulder problems. Let's just roll over that.
So, it'd be good to make sure that your physio is looking at your lat dorsi length, your posture, the shoulder rotating forward. If you're still getting problems despite them looking at this, obviously your x-ray to make sure there's no bony projections down into where the shoulder can impinge. You also need an ultrasound just to make sure there's no swelling in that bursal point we talked about. And if the physio is going to refer you for that, ask if it can be a practice that radiology clinic that can put some do some diagnostic injection into the bursa if it is swollen. They can put some anesthetic. If that takes the pain away, then that's a good indication that a cortisone is going to be useful. Again, cortisone will only be effective if those causative factors have been addressed. Otherwise, it'll give you a 3-week window of, oh, that feels great. And then after that, the pain will start recurring, and you might go back for another one, and then it's the doctor says, oh, we won't give you any more. You've had your 2 or 3, and you think, oh, my shoulder's worse than I thought.
Yes, yeah, brilliant. Fantastic, Simon. And how do people get in touch with you?
You've been pretty great referring some of the ones that have had problems and need second opinions, but info at Futureproof Rehab will get me. Futureproofrehab.co.nz.
Yeah, great. And that's as you've mentioned, like it's a holistic thing, and let's see how you move, and let's look at that and help you move and be better, both obviously in your sport, but also how you move around your workstation, all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, it's a whole thing, lifting kids and yeah,
brilliant.
And it's one of those things, as greater services and that you provide the assignment. It's one I don't actually want to use. I hope that I don't. Yep. You're one of those people that we hope we don't actually have to see, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but if you're listening, you shouldn't have to, because you will be doing a bit of mobility and this sort of stuff, and then you should be good.
Bit of screening at the start of a season, maybe. Yeah,
totally.
Good.
Well, Simon, thank you for joining with us again, and we actually really look forward to your next topic coming up in the future weeks to come. We'll have you back. We'll pick another topic, and always great to have you on board and hear your side of the story and a bit of all those preventative things, which will hopefully help our athletes stay out of trouble and not need you.
No, that's good. No problem.
Well done. Thanks, Simon. Keep in touch.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Simon.
Good job. Well done, Angus. Learning from the show. It's always good to hear, like you've been making some notes furiously in the background. What's your key learning today?
Well, my key learning today is actually that I have to train in the mornings, Richard. I need to get up earlier. That's what I need to do, Richard, is get up earlier. And if I'm going to beat Dylan, I've got to get up much earlier.
Because he'd also talked about lollycake as an option as well. I was expecting you to say lollycake's a good thing. But yeah, get up earlier. Early bird catches the worm, and get amongst it.
Well, I was actually thinking when he said about the lolly cake that maybe he'd seen what we'd already been eating tonight, Richard.
Yeah, well, I haven't. Mine's about to be sampled shortly.
Oh, post race. That's post race recovery food, is it?
It absolutely is. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Good job.
Perfect.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your energy tonight, Angus. It's been awesome.
Yeah, another great night, another great Wednesday. Don't forget, people, first of all, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening if you're listening to this on a podcast. Don't forget to like our Facebook page, Team CP. All the information for some coachings over at teamcp.co.nz on the website. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's all sorts of interviews and recipes and all sorts of things popping up there all the time. So don't forget to get on board with that. And we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same back channel. Richard Greer.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to that. And hey, big thank you to Simon. Big thank you to Dylan, and well done, Angus. And thank you as well for telling us about your weekend. Good job. Till next week.
No problem. Go well. Spread the awesomeness, team.
Yep. Over and out.